In this one, we'll turn this animation into this using Rive's feather effect. To get started, this is the animation we are working with. We have a text as the percentage and the same as animated, that is the text run value frame by frame, all the way from 0 to 100 like this. And then we have a stroke animated as well along a circle, that is this right here. And we have done that using trim path options like this. We can spice up the same with some glows on the stroke. To do that, I can go ahead and add a fill to the ellipse, change the color, and add the feathering effect and change the direction to inner like this. Now that's the kind of stroke we want instead of the plain one. Now we want to animate the same as well, that is from the bottom to the top. And to control that, we will need a stroke itself, that is a feathered stroke. So instead of a fill, I can go ahead and add a stroke, change the width, the color, and then feather the same. Now on this feathered stroke, I can go ahead and use the trim path options to animate along our ellipse. But we want it to look like before, that is a feathered fill with the direction set to inner. And to do that, I can go ahead and simply clip out the excess using another ellipse. So I can go ahead and select this one, duplicate the same, remove the fills, change the name to clip, and use it as our clip for the original ellipse. And now we have got a feathered stroke which can be controlled using the trim path options as well as clipped inside the ellipse. Now to make this more interesting, I can go ahead and stack more feathered strokes on top of each other like this. So I can go ahead and duplicate it twice, change the color, and change the stroke width as well as the feather amount to get an overlaid effect. For the animation, we need to animate the 3 strokes one by one, and then to get an effect like this, that is the strokes starting from the bottom center and ending at the top center, we can set the trim start to 0% and the trim offset to 50% at the start, and simply at the end set the trim start to 100% and the trim offset to 0%. And for reference, we can name the strokes as well according to the color here. Make sure the trim end is set to 0 by default. And then we can go ahead and key in each trim path option one by one. Same for the other 2. And we have got an animation like this. Along with the strokes, we can go ahead and use a background fill as well. So I can go ahead and add a fill to the mix, place it at the bottom, and use the purple color. Feather out the same and use the inner direction. Now I can go ahead and use the feather amount in our animation as well. That is when the animation is at the start, that is 0%. We can go ahead and set the amount here to 0 as well. And at the end, when it is 100%, we can go ahead and change the value, say to 100 as well. Now we can go ahead and bring the fill's opacity down to blend it well with our strokes. like this. Next, we can work on this bolt icon and we can create an animation like this for the same. First of all, I'll go ahead and separate it out into a new artboard and then feather out the fill. So we can go ahead and feather out the current fill, choose the direction as inner and bring down the strength, that is the amount of the feather effect, so it is visible. And then we can go ahead and offset it, say by a pixel to the bottom. And then we can go ahead and add some ellipses inside the same. And then feather out the shapes as well. We'll name each layer for reference as well. Next, I can go ahead and create a group of these three and have that clipped inside of our bolt. So we can go ahead and get all of them inside the bolt visually. And then create a clip with the bolt icon. And we have something like this. Now to better notice the highlights, I can go ahead and place the bolt icon at the top with the feathered fill, this right here. And then I can go ahead and move these shapes in and around. I'll increase the feather strength of the white highlight to 2 and we have something like this. Now we have got the shapes clipped inside of the bolt icon, which is just what we want, but we want glows of them outside the shape as well when we move them around. And to do that, I can go ahead and simply create another set of circles. That is, I can go ahead and duplicate this group and remove the clip from the same and call this the glow. Bring down the opacity to say 50% and also change the feather effect. That is, make it, let's say 20 or 15. Now if I go ahead and move any ellipse inside of the icon that is clipped, the shadow or the glow does not move. To do that, I can simply use the transform constraint and sync the glow ellipses with the original ones. And before I do that, I can simply go ahead and group each original ellipse into a group, change their style to target. So we get handy dandy controls like these. And then we can go ahead and name each as well for reference. And then select the ellipses inside of the glow group and add constraints and set the target as the original ellipses controls like this. Add the constraint, transform, and the target will be the control. Now if we go ahead and move any of the circles that are clipped inside of the bolt icon, we move the glow as well, that is outside of the icon, and we have a effect like this. Now adding the target groups was not necessary either for the glows or the constraint to work, but we have done so because we want easy controls to move these circles around. Now we can go ahead and create an animation with the same. Let's go ahead and add a animation. Change the animation mode to loop because that's what we want. And here I'll go ahead and simply change the positions of these ellipses using the targets. To finish the loop, I can go ahead and copy the first keyframes and paste them at the end. And here is our animation. We can go ahead and change the playback speed when we use this animation as a nested artboard. Back in our main artboard, we can go ahead and add a nested artboard and select the bolt and position it in place. For the animation to work in the nested artboard, add the animation, that is our loop one, and set playing as true, and then we can change the speed here. Let's set it to, let's say, 0.25, that is 1/4 the original speed. If I go ahead and play the state machine here, you will notice the animation is playing. Finally, we can go ahead and add a background ripple animation as well, like this, using ellipses and a feathered fill. To perform the same, I can go ahead and add ellipses to the artboard, change the size to 250 by 250 pixels, and then place it in the center, change the fill, and apply the feathered effect. Direction will be inner, and let's set the amount to say 30. Now to blend it with the background, I can go ahead and set the opacity to a lower number, let's say 25%. And then I can go ahead and create duplicates of the same. So let's name this layer Wave and create a group with the same under the ball, and that will be the waves. Let's duplicate it, and now I can go ahead and increase its size by 150 pixels in each side. So that would be 400. Create few more duplicates with uniform size increase, and lastly an extra one out of the view. We can go ahead and now create animation with the same. Let's add a new timeline, name it waves. And here what we need to do is decrease 150 from each of the ellipse. First of all, we'll go ahead and key in the size of each ellipse, and then at the end we can go ahead and decrease 150 from each ellipse, which will result in a perfect loop. So you can select the first ellipse, subtract 150 from the current, so it will be 100 by 100. Similarly, we can go ahead and decrease the size of each ellipse one by one. And if you play back the animation, you will notice we have a perfect loop. For the first circle, we can go ahead and fade it out to make the loop. So I can go ahead and key in its opacity. And halfway through the animation, I can go ahead and fade it out. Now let's set the animation mode to loop and preview the same. For an extra step, I can go ahead and select the nested artboard and key in the playing as checked right here, and we have all of the looping animations in one timeline. Now we can go ahead and use it in the state machine along with the percentage. And with that, we have got our finished animation. You can try adding lines at the bottom like this to make the animation more interesting. We have covered different ways we can use the feather effect for glows, blending animations, trim paths, and so on. Leave a like if you appreciate the effort, and you can also subscribe if you wish to see more updates like this. That's it for today. See you in the next one.